$6 million. The biggest top prize in Deal or No Deal history. A woman who said a dark cloud followed her everywhere walked onto that stage and played the game of her life. The banker offered her $880,000, the largest offer ever made on this show. She looked at it and said no deal. What she went home with rewrote the record books. This was the final episode of Premiere Week, the biggest week in Deal or No Deal history. The top prize had been climbing with every episode. 1 million, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now for Michelle. $6 million, the largest top prize the show had ever offered. Michelle's jaw dropped. The crowd went absolutely insane. Michelle picked case number 8. 8 is great, she said, with a nervous laugh. And with $6 million on the line, the most epic game in the show's history was about to begin. 6 cases to open, and Michelle started beautifully. She opened them in order, a system she clearly planned out, and the results were almost perfect. The biggest amount she lost was $100,000. Everything else was small. The 3 massive 7-figure prizes, $1 million, $3 million, and $6 million, were all completely untouched. The board was glowing with possibility. Michelle was so amped up, she accidentally bumped the deal button cover open during the round and had to close it. Howie joked about it, but the truth was, this woman was running on pure adrenaline. The banker's first offer, $39,000. On a board where 3 amounts were worth 7 figures each, $39,000 was barely worth discussing. Michelle knew it. Howie knew it. Even the banker probably knew it. 5 cases to open, and this is where Michelle made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of the game. She changed her system. Instead of picking cases in order, the strategy that had just delivered a near-perfect first round, she jumped to a random number. Howie raised an eyebrow. When a system works for you, try something else. Michelle joked nervously. It was the kind of comment that sounds funny until the consequences land. Her very first pick in the new system, Case 17. The case opened, and the number that appeared on the screen sent a physical shockwave through the studio. $3 million. Gone. One of the 3 7-figure amounts wiped off the board on the very first pick after she abandoned her system. The rest of the round added more damage. Case 12 revealed $500,000, another massive hit. Case 10 took $10,000. Case 9 and Case 11 cleared smaller amounts. By the end of the round, the board had lost over $3.5 million in value. But the 2 amounts that truly mattered, the $1 million and the $6 million, were both still alive. $250,000 was hanging on too. The dream wasn't dead. It was damaged, badly damaged, but it was still breathing. The banker offered $54,000. Anthony was firm and confident. You've got 4 big amounts up there and 4 cases to open. There's no way you're going to eliminate all 4 of them. You're not. Go for it. Michelle looked at her husband, the best husband in the entire world, and trusted him completely. No deal. 4 cases to open. Michelle stood on the far side of the stage. Her new system involved physically moving to a different spot, as if the geography of the stage could influence her luck. She picked cases 26, 19, 15, and 25. The crowd held its breath on each one, but the results were kind. Small amounts left the board. The $6 million stayed. The $1 million stayed. By the end of the round, 4 significant amounts remained on the board, with the 2 7-figure prizes anchoring everything. The banker's offer jumped to $110,000. 6 figures for the first time. The kind of money that makes normal people stop breathing. But Michelle wasn't playing a normal game. She was playing a $6 million game. Her cousin leaned in. It's not $6 million, but you've got that right here in your case. No deal! No deal. 3 cases to open, and this round changed the entire game. Michelle picked Case 18 first, and when the amount appeared on the board, she nearly collapsed on the stage. $6 million. The biggest number in Deal or No Deal history, gone. The prize that had defined this entire premiere week, the number that had drawn millions of viewers to their televisions across the country, had been sitting in Case 18 the entire time. Michelle staggered backward. Oh my God, she whispered. I should have stuck with the plan. The regret was written across her face. But so was something else, determination. Because here's the thing about Michelle Falco. She recovered immediately. Case 24, opened next. A small amount, safe. Then, case 13, $250,000, gone. The $250,000 that had been lingering on the board was eliminated. But the million was still alive, and Michelle's conviction was unshakable. The banker's offer dropped to $67,000. From $110,000 down to $67,000, the banker was punishing her for losing the $6 million. Michelle's supporters warned her not to get greedy. Everybody at home, everybody she worked with, they all said the same thing. Don't get greedy. But Michelle said something that silenced every doubter in the room. This is not greed. This is risk. And there's a world of difference between the two.
Okay.
No deal. What followed was the most nerve-wracking stretch of television anyone in that studio had ever witnessed. Michelle opened a case safe. The offers went up. She opened another safe again. The offers climbed higher. The million was still there. Nobody knew which case it was in, but it was still on the board, still in the game, still making the banker sweat every time the phone rang. Michelle was dancing between picks. She had this little nervous shuffle she did every time a case opened safely. A combination of relief, joy, and pure adrenaline. The crowd loved it. They were chanting her name. Howie was sweating alongside her. Even the models were emotional. This wasn't just a game anymore. This was an event. This was the biggest thing that had ever happened on this show, and everyone in the room could feel it. Think about this for a second. Every single case she opened could have been the million. Every time she called a number, she was one bad pick away from watching her entire game collapse into dust. And yet she kept going, round after round, case after case, no deal after no deal. The woman who said a dark cloud followed her was outrunning the biggest storm of her life and winning. Finally, the board narrowed down to its absolute final configuration. 2 cases remained in the entire game. Michelle's case number 8, and one other case sitting on the stage. One held $750,000, the other held $1 million. Nothing else. Every other amount in the game from 1 penny to $6 million had been eliminated, and Michelle Falco was now guaranteed to walk away with at least $750,000. The most money anyone had ever won on Deal or No Deal. Guaranteed, no matter what. Howie looked at Michelle and said something nobody had ever heard on this show before. You cannot go home with less than $750,000. You are about to set a guaranteed record. The crowd was on their feet. Anthony was in tears. Susan was shaking. This was it, the pinnacle of premiere week, the culmination of the biggest run of episodes the show had ever produced. The banker called one final time. Howie answered. The conversation was long. When he hung up, his face said it all. Another record, he said. The largest offer ever made on this show. He paused, letting the tension build until the room was about to burst. $880,000. The crowd screamed. Her mum was sobbing. $880,000. Nearly $1 million sitting right there on the table, waiting for one word. But Michelle Falco, the woman with the dark cloud, the woman who said she wasn't good at games, the woman who was physically shaking from head to toe, looked at the number and said no deal. She believed the million was in case 8. She said it with total conviction. I think the $1 million is in my case. It is. Howie gave her one final option, 2 cases, 7, 50, and $1 million. Did she want to switch or keep case number 8? Her family was divided. The crowd was screaming, but Michelle's answer was instant. 8 is great. It's been good to me. I'm sticking with 8. She didn't waver. She didn't hesitate. She didn't look back. Howie opened case 8, $750,000, not the million. She'd been wrong about which case held which amount. She'd turned down $880,000 and walked away with $750,000, leaving $130,000 on the table. On paper, she should have taken the deal, but here's what the paper doesn't tell you. $750,000 was the most money anyone had ever won on Deal or No Deal. More than anyone ever. Howie was emotional. The crowd gave her a standing ovation that shook the studio. Matthew Maddy. Selena is from Staten Island, New York. He's been married for 23 years. He's been a Teamster for 23 years. And he's got the kind of energy that fills a room the second he walks in. When Howie asked if he wanted a check, Maddie shut him down immediately. "I don't take no checks. I want cash." The studio erupted. This man wasn't here to play politely. He was here to get paid. In cash, and he wanted the whole studio to know it. This was premiere week on Deal or No Deal, and the stakes had been climbing with every episode. Howie called this one Maddie Night, and before long the entire crowd was calling it Maddie Day. The top prize wasn't $1 million, it was $3 million. Maddie heard that number and his eyes lit up like the lights on the Verrazano Bridge. $3 million. For a Teamster from Staten Island, this was the stuff dreams are made of. Maddie brought his whole family. His wife Denise, who admitted she was a nervous wreck from the moment they arrived. His twin daughters, Alexandra and Ariel, who were already competing over who Dad was going to listen to. Alexandra said she was just like him, and Ariel said she was his favorite. His brother-in-law James was there too, holding it down for the family. Maddie picked case number 23. He was about to play. Everything was connected. Everything was personal. And when he set that case on the podium, Maddie Day was officially underway. Maddie opened his first 6 cases using the most personal system anyone had ever used on Deal or No Deal. Every number was a birthday, an anniversary, or a family milestone. Maddie picked case number 5. He had 5 kids, and their ages all added up to the numbers he was about to play. Case 10, 3 of his kids were born on the 10th. Case 17, his wedding anniversary. Case 12, his wife's birthday. Case 13 for his son Big Mac. Case 18, his other son's birthday. Each pick had a story behind it, and each story had heart. And the results? Nearly flawless. Every case that opened revealed small or mid-range amounts. The top 9 amounts on the entire board were completely untouched. The $3 million was there, the million was there, every significant number was still shining. Howie pointed out that Maddie had kept all the top amounts in play, a remarkable achievement for a first round on a $3 million board. The banker's first offer, $32,000. Maddie looked up at the banker's booth and delivered a line that set the tone for the entire night. "He reminds me of a baked potato because I'm going to stick a fork in him when he's done." The crowd went wild. No deal. Maddie Day was just getting started. 5 more cases. Maddie kept using family connections to pick his numbers. Case 3 for Lisa, case 8 for his niece Cassandra. The early picks were safe, small amounts, leaving the board exactly the way you want. But then came case 25, held by Haley, and it revealed $400,000, a big hit. The crowd groaned, but Maddie stayed composed. The $3 million was still there. The million was still there. The core of the game was intact. Howie took a deep breath and delivered the news. This was only the second offer of the game, and it was the highest second offer in the history of Deal or No Deal. $105,000. Maddie's wife Denise was introduced. She was practically vibrating with anxiety. His twin daughters were split on strategy, but Maddie looked at $105,000 and said it wasn't even enough. No deal. Howie announced, "Hello to $3 million. No deal." 4 cases to open. Maddie picked case 1, case 16 for his twin daughter's Sweet 16, case 21, and case 9. The results were strong. He lost $100,000 from the board. But the 2 7-figure amounts survived again. The $1 million and the $3 million were both still alive. The board was narrowing, but the ceiling was still extraordinary. The banker's third offer set yet another record, $249,000. The highest third offer in show history. Howie was in disbelief. The audience was screaming. His daughter yelled, "No deal, Dad!" And Maddie the Teamster, who was having the time of his life, barely even considered it. No deal. Not even close. He was going for the $3 million, and nothing was going to stop him. 3 cases to open, and this round took one of the bigger remaining amounts off the board. Case 7 was picked for the 7 Selenas in the building. Sarah opened it, and $750,000 was gone. Another significant loss, but the $1 million and the $3 million were both still alive, and those 2 numbers were the only ones that mattered now. Everything else was just math. Those 2 amounts were driving the offers, driving the tension, and driving Maddie's dream. The remaining cases in the round were manageable. Small amounts leaving the board, and Maddie's confidence was unwavering. He told the crowd he'd been playing Deal or No Deal on his computer at home so much that his wife yelled at him about it. He said he was having the time of his life. This wasn't stress for Maddie, this was pure joy. 1 case to open, Megan held case 6. Howie warned Maddie directly, if this case has the 3 million, the offers will crash. This is the critical moment. Megan opened the case. It was not 3 million. The crowd erupted. The million and 3 million were both still alive. And then the banker did something that nobody in the studio had ever seen before on Deal or No Deal. The offer didn't come as a number on the screen. It didn't come as a phone call with a dollar figure. The banker sent down a physical briefcase. Howie took it, held it up for the cameras, and opened it right there in front of Maddie on the podium. Inside, $400,000 in cash. Real, physical, rubber-banded stacks of $100 bills. Howie spread them out on the podium like a Las Vegas dealer laying out chips. Remember, Howie reminded Maddie, you said you didn't want a check. You said you wanted cash. Well, this is not a check. This is $400,000 in cold, hard United States cash. The whole studio went quiet. Maddie stared at the money. Denise stared at the money. The twins were staring. James was staring. Everyone in that audience was looking at more cash than most people will ever see in one place in their entire lives. The bills were right there, close enough to touch, close enough to smell, close enough to pick up and walk out the door with. This was the banker's most dramatic and psychologically brilliant move of the entire night, turning an abstract number into something tangible, something visceral, something that made $400,000 feel like the most real thing in the universe. Now, think about this for a second. You're a teamster from Staten Island. You're looking at $400,000 in cash. Your wife is a nervous wreck. Your daughters are watching. Would you take the cash and walk away? Or would you keep chasing 3 million? Maddie's wife told him to take it. His daughters agreed. James agreed. But Maddie looked at the board, 1 million and 3 million still alive, and sent the cash walking. Literally. The briefcase was closed and carried back to the banker. $400,000 in cash, rejected. No deal. 2 more cases to open. Maddie navigated through them, and the damage continued, but the million and 3 million survived. Every round they stayed, the offers climbed higher. The board narrowed down to 6 cases, and the banker called with what Howie described as the highest offer in the history of Deal or No Deal. $650,000. But Maddie wasn't ready to stop. His wife was told the offer privately during a commercial break, but Maddie didn't know the number. When Howie revealed it, $650,000, Maddie's wife gasped. But Maddie himself stayed focused. I came here to be a millionaire, he said. The 3 million is in my case. No deal! The crowd was in disbelief. 1 more case opened. Maddie dodged the big numbers again, and the banker called one final time. The offer climbed even higher, $675,000, a new all-time record for the show. Maddie's wife was beside herself. His daughters were crying. The crowd was screaming. $675,000 more money than anyone had ever been offered on Deal or No Deal at that point. Maddie looked at his family. He looked at Howie. And for the first time all night, the teamster from Staten Island stopped running. He took the deal, $675,000. Maddie Day had just set a record. But here's where the story takes its most painful turn. Howie played the what-if game. If Maddie had said no deal, his next case would have been 26, which held a small amount. The offer would have actually dropped to $600,000. So far, so good for the deal. But the cases after that, they all held small amounts too. The offers would have climbed, and the board would have eventually narrowed down to 2 cases, one holding $1 and the other holding $3 million. Howie opened case 23, Maddie's case. The case he'd chosen at the very beginning. The case he'd been guarding, protecting and swearing contained $3 million all night long. Every time someone asked what was in his case, Maddie said $3 million, with the absolute conviction of a man who had never been more certain of anything in his life. Case 23 opened, $3 million. It was there. It had been there the entire time. The $3 million that Maddie promised was in his case was actually in his case. He'd sold it for $675,000. The studio went silent. Maddie's jaw dropped. Denise covered her face. The twins grabbed each other. Howie looked at Maddie and said, gently, that it was not such a great deal. $2,325,000 left on the table. It was the largest amount anyone had ever lost by taking a deal in Deal or No Deal history. But here's the thing about Maddie Salina. He didn't break. He looked at the number, he looked at his family, and he hugged his wife. Because $675,000 is still $675,000. It's still life-changing. It's still more money than a teamster from Staten Island ever expected to hold in his hands. And Maddie Day, it was still the wildest, most entertaining, most record-breaking day in Deal or No Deal history. The man came for cash and he got cash, just not all of it. So here's the heartbreaker. Would you have taken the 675 or would you have kept going, knowing the $3 million was right there in your case the whole time? Maddie left over $2 million on the table, but he also walked away with $675,000 he didn't have yesterday. Was it worth it? Drop your answer in the comments. See you in the next one. A cancer survivor, a club promoter who works until 4 in the morning, a man who picked his case number because it was the last word his dying grandmother ever spoke. And in the middle of his game, in the middle of Deal or No Deal, an NBA player walked onto the stage and changed everything. This is Tony Combs, and this isn't just a game show episode. This is one of the most emotional, most inspiring, most unforgettable stories Deal or No Deal has ever told. And the ending? It's going to hit you right in the heart. Tony Combs is from Orlando, Florida. He's 31 years old. He's a club promoter who drags people into nightclubs until 4 in the morning, and he doesn't want to do it anymore. He's tired. He's been grinding for years. But that's not even the hardest part of Tony's story. Tony is a cancer survivor. He spent hours in chemotherapy chairs, watching his nails turn blue, locked in hospital rooms with nothing but a television screen to keep him going. And what did he watch during those 8-hour chemo sessions? Game shows. Deal or No Deal, the very show he's standing on right now. This man watched this game from a hospital bed while fighting for his life, dreaming about what it would be like to stand on that stage, pick a case, and hear how he asked the question. And now, against all odds, he is here, healthy, alive, cancer-free, and ready to play the game he watched through the darkest days of his life. And then there's his mum. Tony's mum is the kind of woman who opens her doors to everybody. She helped Tony fight through cancer. She's been his rock, his support system, his entire world. And when Howie asks Tony what he'd do with the money, he doesn't hesitate. Take care of my mum first, before anything else. Before the dream nightclub he wants to open, before himself. Mom comes first, every penny. That is who Tony Combs is at his core. Not a club promoter, not a cancer patient, a son, a fighter. And tonight, everything he does on this stage, every case he opens, every offer he accepts or rejects, is for her. He picks case number 7, and the reason why is gonna give you chills. Tony's grandmother recently passed away, and before she died, the last thing she said, the very last word that came out of her mouth, was the number 7. Tony doesn't know why. Nobody knows why. But when it came time to pick a case on Deal or No Deal, there was only ever one number Tony was going to choose. Number 7, Grandma's number. And whatever is inside that case, Tony believes his grandmother is watching over him tonight. Whether you believe in signs or not, you have to admit, 2014, choosing the last number your grandmother ever spoke as your case on a game show for $1 million is one of the most powerful things any contestant has ever done on this show. First round, 6 cases to open, and Tony comes out with the energy of a man who has literally fought for his life and won. He's doing karate moves on stage, he's making the crowd laugh, he's hugging the models. He's a ball of pure charisma. He loses some medium amounts, but keeps 5 of the top 6 numbers alive, including the million. The banker, and here's a fun detail, the banker in this episode is a woman. She calls with her first offer, and Tony isn't impressed. No deal. He's a fighter, a mover, a shaker. He doesn't back down. Those are his words, and he means every single one of them. The rounds continue, and Tony keeps pushing forward with the kind of energy that only a man who has stared death in the face and beaten it can bring. He's losing some numbers along the way. The board isn't perfect, but the energy never drops. Not once. His mum is in the audience giving advice on every case. His uncle is shouting out numbers. His whole section is a wall of noise and love and unconditional support. And Tony is feeding off every single bit of it. But what's coming next? Nobody sees it coming. Not the audience. Not Howie. Not even Tony himself. Tony opens case 8, and the $1 million is gone. The biggest number on the board, the dream he's been chasing, vanished in a single moment. But here's why this game isn't over. $750,000 is still alive. $750,000 is still somewhere on that board, possibly sitting right there in case 7, Grandma's case. The dream has changed shape, but it's not dead. Not yet. The banker calls with $20,000, and normally that would be the whole offer. But this time, Howie tells Tony that the banker is sending something else out. The studio doors open, and walking onto the Deal or No Deal stage is Aaron Gordon, the Orlando Magic basketball player. Tony's jaw hits the floor. He's a massive basketball fan. He's from Orlando. The Magic are his team. And his hero just walked onto the set of his favorite game show during the biggest moment of his entire life. Stop and think about this for a second. You're a cancer survivor. You spent months watching this exact show from a hospital bed, dreaming of being on it someday. And now you're here, standing on this stage, and an NBA player is looking you in the eyes, telling you that you're an inspiration. This is the kind of moment that doesn't happen in real life, but it's happening right now for Tony Combs. Aaron Gordon tells Tony he gives everyone the courage to fight through difficult circumstances. And then the gifts start flowing: a basketball signed by the entire Orlando Magic roster, a private suite at a Magic game for Tony and all his friends, courtside seats, and the biggest gift of all, 100 tickets donated to children fighting cancer in Tony's name. 100 kids going through what Tony went through, getting to go to a game and forget about their treatment for one night because of Tony, because he showed up and fought. The total package is worth $27,500. And Tony, the club promoter who knows how to negotiate, does something bold. He makes a counteroffer. He tells the banker, "Give me $50,000 plus the Orlando Magic experience, and we have a deal." It's aggressive. It's confident. It's very Tony. But the banker says no. The counter is rejected. Tony has to keep playing. The Magic perks are gone, but the 100 cancer tickets? The Orlando Magic is donating those regardless, because some things are bigger than a game show, and giving 100 sick kids a night of joy and basketball is one of those things. Tony may have lost the negotiation, but those kids still won. 3 more cases to open. $750,000 is still alive. Tony needs to dodge it. He opens 2 cases safe, small amounts. The crowd is building, and then the last case, case 22. If 750 is in this case, the game is essentially over. Tony's mom is standing up, gripping the railing, praying. The whole studio is holding its breath. 1 penny, 1 penny. The case held a single penny, and $750,000 is still alive. The crowd absolutely loses it. Tony is jumping. His family is screaming. And his mum, the woman who fought through everything with him, is so overwhelmed with joy that she actually falls. She tumbles right there in the audience. The show had to stop production. They came back an entire week later to make sure she was okay before finishing the game. That is how intense this moment was. The emotion, the joy, the relief of watching her son survive cancer and now survive Deal or No Deal 2014. It was simply too much. So intense, it literally knocked his mother off her feet. A week later, they're back. Mum is fine. Tony is ready, and $750,000 is still on that board, waiting. The banker calls $48,000, the highest offer of the entire game, and Tony has to make the hardest decision of his life. He thinks about the club he wants to open, Club Motion. He thinks about his mum. He thinks about those chemotherapy sessions and those hours watching Deal or No Deal from a hospital bed. His arms are trembling. Now, here's the question. Would you take $48,000 with $750 still alive on that board? Or would you keep pushing, knowing that one bad case sends everything crashing? You're a cancer survivor. Your mum literally fell from excitement last week. You've already had an NBA player walk on stage for you. What more do you need from this night? At what point do you say, 2014, I have been blessed enough for one lifetime, let me take what is here and build something beautiful with it? What would you do? Tony's friend says, no deal. His mum says, no deal. But Tony looks at $48,000, real money, guaranteed money, money that can start the dream, and says something that surprises everyone. Deal. $48,000. The crowd cheers. His mum is crying. His friends are hugging him. He said it himself. I can go out there and make something of that. And he can. For a man who fought cancer from a hospital bed and dreamed of this moment, $48,000 isn't an ending. It is a beginning. It is the seed money for Club Motion. It is the first check that goes straight to his mum before he spends a single cent on himself. It is the reward for a man who refused to let cancer beat him and refused to let this game break him. And Howie told him straight, Tony, you made a great deal. The numbers backed it up. Tony Combs didn't walk out with the million. He didn't walk out with $750, but he walked out with $48,000. An unforgettable memory. 100 children going to a basketball game in his name, and the knowledge that his grandmother's number 7 carried him every step of the way. Some stories on Deal or No Deal are about money. This one was about so much more. So here's what I want to know. Would you have taken the $48,000, or would you have kept going with $750 still on that board? And what about the counteroffer was asking for $50,000, a smart move? Or did it cost him the $27,500 that was already guaranteed? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. See you in the next one. A football player, a roller derby queen, and a single mum walk onto Deal or No Deal, and what happened next was pure chaos. She turned down $77,000. Then she turned down $131,000. And the ending? Nobody. Not the audience, not Howie, not even the banker saw it coming. This is Kimberly Bradshaw, and this might be the wildest, most emotional ride in Deal or No Deal history. So who exactly is Kimberly Bradshaw? On paper, she's a single mother to an 11-year-old boy named Zeke. But Kimberly Bradshaw is so much more than that. This woman plays full-contact tackle football for the Sacramento Sirens jersey number 19, and her teammates call her Kitten. Yeah, Kitten. But don't let that name fool you, because on the roller derby rink, they call her Thundercat. She's the blocker, the big girl who clears the path and takes the hits so the smaller skaters can get through. Kitten on the football field, Thundercat on the roller derby rink, and tonight, she's standing on the Deal or No Deal stage ready to take on the banker. Oh, and here's the best part, her mum had absolutely no idea she was playing roller derby. For the past month, Kimberly had been making up excuses just to sneak off to practice. Her mum thought she was going to see the team. She didn't know her daughter was lacing up skates and body-checking people. So Kimberly figures, what better place to come clean than national television? That way her mum finds out, the whole country finds out, and there's really nothing anyone can do about it. Smart move, Kim. Very smart move. She picks case number 19, her football number, and Howie tells her she can touch it, keep it, kiss it, do whatever she wants with it. The case is hers. 26 cases on the stage, one of them holding $1 million, and the game that's about to unfold is going to test every ounce of fight this woman has. First round. 6 cases to open, and Kimberly comes out absolutely swinging. She's knocking out small numbers left and right, $5 here, $1 there, 75 cents gone. The board is looking beautiful. Every single low number that disappears is a small victory, and the crowd is loving every second of it. But then she opens case 14. $200,000 walks right out of the game. First blood. The board takes its first real hit. The smile fades for just a second. But here's the thing, and this is important, the top 5 amounts are all still in play. The million, the $500,000, the $400,000, the $300,000, the $75,000, they're all still alive. The damage is real, but it's contained. The game is still very much hers to win. The banker makes the first call, $77,000. Now, let's stop and think about this for a second. $77,000 for a single mum who plays football and roller derby sports that don't pay a single cent. That's life-changing money. That's debt cleared, that's rent covered. That's breathing room she's probably never had. Her teammates in the audience are going crazy. Her mum is watching every move. Her son Zeke is right there. And Kimberly, she looks at that board. She sees the million still glowing. She sees 5 of the biggest amounts still in play. And she says,
Howie, no deal!
The crowd erupts. And honestly, with that board still loaded, it's really hard to argue with her. 5 more cases to open, and this is where the momentum starts to shift. She works through the cases one by one, knocking out a few small numbers, keeping the hope alive. But then she opens case 23, and $400,000 disappears from the board just like that. Another massive number gone. And the banker smelled blood. The phone rings and the offer drops to $49,000. That's $28,000 less than the first offer. The banker isn't just lowballing. The banker is sending a message. You're losing this game. I can see it, and I'm going to make you feel it, but the million is still alive on that board. And Kimberly Bradshaw is not the kind of person who backs down from a fight. She talks to her mum, she talks to her son. Her mum gives her the nod that look only a mother can give that says, go for it, I believe in you. And Kimberly turns to Howie and says, I got you, Howie, no deal. Mum's feeling it, the whole family is feeling it, and the game goes on. 4 more cases. And this is the round that changes everything. She opens case after case, dodging bullets like she's been doing it her whole life. The crowd is on their feet! The tension in that studio is so thick you could cut it. Every case that opens without a big number is a tiny miracle. And then the unthinkable happens. She opens the case, and there it is. $1 million. Gone! The biggest number on the entire board. The dream, the goal, the whole reason she's been saying no deal round after round just vanishes in a single moment. The crowd gasps. Kimberly's face drops. You can see the weight of it hit her in real time. But here's what keeps this game alive. She still has $300,000 and $500,000 sitting on that board. The million is gone, but there's still serious money to play for. The banker, however, is not feeling generous. Not even a little bit. The offer crashes all the way down to $35,000. From $77,000 in round one down to $35,000. The banker is twisting the knife, pressing down on the wound, trying to break her spirit. This is the lowest moment of the entire game. And right when things look darkest, right when you think the pressure might finally crush her, the doors at the back of the studio swing open. Howie brings out Kimberly's entire team. The Sacramento Sirens football squad, the roller derby crew. They flood the stage like an army arriving just in time. There must be 15, 20 women up there, all screaming, all cheering, all wearing their jerseys and their gear. Reinforcements have arrived. And the banker just got seriously outnumbered. Her teammate grabs the microphone and says something that hits different.
We are a family. That's what our team does. We promote that all the time. You are my sister as well as everyone here. You go for it, girl.
And standing there, surrounded by every woman who's ever had her back on the field and on the rink, with $35,000 on the table and her whole team screaming behind her, Kimberly Bradshaw says, no deal. The crowd absolutely loses it. This woman has zero quit in her. Absolutely zero. And the game goes on. And now something incredible starts happening. Round after round, Kimberly keeps opening cases and she keeps dodging the big numbers. 300,000 still there. $500,000 still there. The board is getting smaller, but the two biggest remaining prizes refuse to fall. It's like the universe is giving her one more chance. Against all odds, the offers start climbing again. $46,000, then $84,000. The banker can see the board getting dangerous again and knows this is getting out of control. And then comes the moment. The one that everyone in that studio, everyone watching at home will remember. The banker picks up the phone and the offer comes in, $131,000. Let me say that again, $131,000, guaranteed, right now, on the table. No more risk, no more cases to open, no more guessing. Just take the check and walk out of here a changed woman. For a single mum who plays football for free, who rides roller derby on weekends, who's been fighting and scrapping her whole life to give her son Zeke a better future, this isn't just money. This is everything. This is debt wiped completely clean. A reliable car, braces for Zeke, money set aside for college, stability she's never had, security she's only dreamed about, everything she's been working toward, sitting right there on that table, waiting for her to say one word deal. Howie breaks it down. She still has $300,000 and $500,000 on the board. Her mum weighs in. She's got two big ones left. Even if she loses one, there's still more money there than the offer. Her teammates are telling her to go for it. And Kimberly, she feels it. She looks at that $131,000. She thinks about every single thing it could mean for her family. And she says,
No deal.
one more, just one more case. $131,000. Enough to change her entire life. And she turned it down for the chance of something bigger. One more case. That's all she wanted. One more case to prove the banker wrong, to show that the math was on her side, to keep the dream alive for one more round. Howie talks about the safety net, two huge amounts, $300,000 and $500,000. As long as both of those numbers stay on the board, she's protected. The offer stays high. The game stays in her favor. No matter what else happens, those two numbers are her shield. But safety nets, they break. The case opens, $500,000 gone. The safety net snaps clean in half. The offer plummets back down to $84,000, from $131,000 to $84,000. She lost $47,000 of guaranteed value in a single case. One decision, one case. $47,000 evaporated. The banker called the bluff, pushed all in, and this time the banker was right. But Kimberly Bradshaw is not done. She's a football player. A roller derby queen. She's been hit harder than this on the field and gotten right back up. She stares down that $84,000 offer, and with $300,000 still alive on the board, she says, Howie paints the picture. 4 cases remain. A 50-50 chance of walking out with at least $75,000. A 1 in 4 chance of leaving with $300,000. But there's also a very real chance the next case destroys everything. This is it. This is the moment where the entire game comes down to a single decision. She picks case 24. Kelly's case. Howie says it himself. This case will tell us whether this was a touchdown or a fumble. The entire studio goes silent. Kelly walks forward. The case clicks open. And there it is. $300,000. Gone. The last big number on the board disappears, and with it goes everything Kimberly has been fighting for. Every no deal, every moment of courage. Every time she stared down the banker and refused to blink. It all comes down to this. The offer drops to $23,000 from $131,000 at the absolute peak, down to 23. In the span of just a few cases, she watched over $100,000 of value slip through her fingers. And for the first time tonight, the very first time in this entire wild, chaotic, emotional, heart-pounding game, Kimberly Bradshaw says the words that everyone has been waiting to hear.
Deal.
$23,000. She said it herself, and she said it with grace. Here's the part that nobody expected. Had she said no deal one more time, her very next case would have been worth just $10. 10. And her original case, case 19, her lucky football number, the one she picked at the very beginning, was worth practically nothing. She stopped at exactly the right time. $23,000 might not be $1 million. It might not be $131,000. But walking away with $23,000 when the alternative was walking away with almost nothing, that was the single best decision Kimberly Bradshaw made all night. So here's my question for you. Would you have taken the $131,000, or would you have kept pushing, just like Kimberly did? And be honest with me, at what exact moment would you have stopped? Would you have taken the $77,000 right at the start, or would you have ridden it all the way down? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. See you in the next one. She walked in wearing her lucky chancretas, a stay-at-home mum who had never been away from her 2 little girls. And she built one of the most beautiful boards this show has ever seen. 3 top amounts, offer after offer, and a husband watching from New Jersey. But the ending? Nobody could have predicted what happened next. Her name is Adalis Marrero, Puerto Rican and Cuban, a stay-at-home mum from New Jersey with 2 beautiful little girls. And the moment she stepped onto the deal or no deal stage, you could tell this was someone special. She was nervous. This was the first time she had ever been away from her babies. But underneath that nervousness was a fire, a determination, a woman who came to play. And she came prepared. Adalis walked out wearing what she called her lucky chancretas, her sandals. No heels, no fancy shoes. Just her lucky chancretas, the ones she believed would carry her to a fortune. Howie noticed right away. "You're starting with your shoes off?" he asked. Adalis corrected him. These weren't off, these were on. These were her weapon. 26 cases, $1 million at the top, 1 penny at the bottom. Adalis looked at the board and picked her number case 13. Lucky 13. She held it close and got ready to play. Round 1. 6 cases to open. Adalis dove right in, calling out case 14 first. The case opened a small amount, a fantastic start. The audience cheered. 5 more cases to go. The next case revealed $25,000, a mid-range hit, but nothing devastating. Adalis was still in great shape. Case 11 opened next, another small amount, then another small number from Patricia's case. The left side of the board was melting away. This was exactly how you want to start a game of deal or no deal. Case 26 came next, Lindsay opened it, and it was another manageable amount. Adalis was cruising through this round. But the last case of round 1, case 20, that was the one that bit. The case opened and $400,000 disappeared from the board. The audience gasped. Adalis felt it. She had eliminated 4 low numbers along the way, and the top 3 amounts were all still in play. That board was still loaded with potential. The banker called. First offer, $15,000. Adalis didn't even need to think about it. $15,000 when you've got $1,750,000 and $500,000 all still alive on the board. That's an insult. No deal.
No deal.
Round 2, 5 cases to open. Case 10 went first. The case opened $100,000 off the board. That one hurt. $100,000 is real money, and it was gone. But Adalis stayed composed. 4 more cases to open. Stacy's case came next, a small amount. Relief. Case 4, Lindsay's case, another manageable number. 2 more cases to go. Case 21 opened to reveal a small amount, and the final case of the round kept the big amounts exactly where they needed to be. When the dust settled from round 2, Adalis looked up at that board and saw something beautiful. Despite losing $100,000, the 3 biggest amounts in the entire game were all still there. All 3 still alive, still possible. The banker called with the second offer, $41,000, a significant jump from $15,000, but Adalis wasn't impressed. Not with that board. Before she answered, Howie introduced her supporters. Emily, her big sister, Arlene, her cousin, who loved her like a sister, and Mare, her best friend since the 4th grade. These women were her rock, and they were all telling her the same thing. $41,000 is nice, but that board is worth fighting for. Adalis Marrero, no deal. Round 3, 4 cases to open. Adalis was now deep into the game, and the pressure was mounting with every single case. She picked case 16, a small amount, beautiful. Case 17, another safe number. The audience was buzzing. This woman was on a roll. Then came case 6. The case opened $200,000. Off the board. Another big hit. But Adalis absorbed it. She had been absorbing hits all game and kept coming back stronger. 1 more case to go. Case 1, Claudia's case. Adalis pleaded for it to be low. The case opened, and it was a small amount. And just like that, despite losing $200,000 in this round, the top 3 amounts were still on the board. All 3 for the 3rd consecutive round. This woman's board was a masterpiece. The banker's third offer, $83,000. The phone clicked. $83,000, guaranteed. For a stay-at-home mum with 2 little girls waiting at home in New Jersey, that's money that changes diapers, pays bills, fills a college fund. But Adalis wasn't done. She still had that fire in her eyes, still had those lucky chancretas on her feet, and still had $1 million on that board. And this is where everything changed. Round 4, 3 cases to open. But before the cases opened, Howie recapped what everyone in that studio was feeling. There were only 11 cases left. The top 3 amounts were still in play. Adalis had what might be the best board anyone had ever built on this show. Case 22 opened first a small amount. Perfect. Case 24. Jacqueline's case, another mid-range number, $50,000, but nothing catastrophic. The top 3 survived. 1 more case. Case 15. This was the last case before what would be the most important offer yet. The case opened, and it was small. $300. Gone from the board, and nobody cared, because the board was still a work of art. The top 3 amounts, $500,000, $750,000, $1 million, all survived round 4. Howie asked Adalis what this kind of money would mean to her, and that's when the walls came down. Adalis started talking about her husband, how he had given her so much, given everyone so much. He was a giver to his family, to his friends, to everyone around him, and all she wanted was to go home and give him the biggest gift she could possibly give him. Her eyes filled with tears. The audience fell silent. The banker called. The offer, $196,000. $196,000. The studio erupted. That was the biggest offer of Adalis's game by far, and it reflected the stunning board she had built over 4 rounds of brilliant play. But Howie had one more surprise. He told Adalis that her husband Lucas was watching, and they had set up a satellite link to their home in New Jersey. Suddenly, there he was, Lucas, on the screen with one of their babies in his arms. The studio audience melted. Adalis could barely hold herself together, seeing her husband and her baby on that screen while standing behind a podium with nearly $200,000 on the table. Howie asked Lucas what he thought she should do. Lucas looked at the board. He knew the numbers. "It's looking good," he said. And then the words that sealed the decision. Tell the banker no. No deal. The husband had spoken. Adalis Marrero. No deal.
No deal!
$196,000 rejected. But wait, because what comes next is what made this episode legendary. 2 cases to open. Just 2 cases standing between Adalis and the next offer. She picked case 5. Ursula held it. just survived 2 more cases. Ursula opened the case, and the number that appeared shattered the dream. $1 million. The million was gone. The biggest prize in the game, the number that had been driving every decision, every no deal, every rejection of every offer, it was gone. The audience groaned. Adalis' face went pale. The supporters went quiet. The satellite connection to Lucas suddenly felt very heavy. But Howie was quick to remind her the board was still good. It wasn't $1 million board anymore. 1 more case to open. Case 12 went next, another amount gone. The board was shrinking and the magic was starting to fade. The banker called. The offer dropped $155,000, down from $196,000. For the first time in the game, the offer went down. Now think about this for a second. Would you take $155? You just lost the million. The momentum has shifted. The banker is getting confident. Would you lock it in and go home? Or would you keep pushing? Adalis said,
Go ahead.
no deal. She was playing 1 case at a time, now the final stage of the game, where every single decision carries maximum weight. She opened case 23, and $750,000 disappeared, just like that. The 2 biggest amounts on the board had been eliminated in back-to-back rounds. The audience couldn't believe it. The board that was golden just minutes ago was now bleeding out. The offer dropped again, $98,000, down from $155, down from $196. The banker smelled blood. Adalis looked at the board. She looked at Lucas on the screen. She still had $300,000 and $500,000 in play. A 50-50 shot at something huge. And she said, no deal.
No deal.
No deal.
No deal.
1 case to open. Case 18, Marissa's case. Adalis called for it to be low. She felt it in her gut it was going to be small. The case opened $75,000 off the board. Not devastating, but it didn't help. 4 cases left. A 50-50 shot at $300,000 or $500,000. The banker called again, $139,000. It went up. The offer climbed back because the big amounts were still alive. $139. That's more than most people will ever see in a single moment. What would you do right now? Seriously, think about your answer before you hear what Adalis decided? No deal. Adalis was all in. Her husband Lucas picked the next case, number 8. The case opened, $300,000. Gone. The audience gasped. Lucas, watching from New Jersey, went silent. The board had turned against her. The offer dropped to $97,000. Howie said the words that hung in the air like a verdict, you may be out of bullets. Adalis had a decision to make. $97,000, guaranteed. Or open 1 more case, with a 2 out of 3 chance of hitting a small number, but a 1 in 3 chance of hitting the $500,000, her last lifeline. Lucas was asked what to do. His answer, you're gonna have to make this call. The weight of everything landed on Adalis' shoulders, and she chose to keep going. No deal. The ultimate gamble. And this is the moment that separates this episode from every other episode. 1 case. Adalis looked at the 3 remaining cases. She had been eyeing case 25, Haley's case, from the beginning. She felt something about it. She went down to the floor of the stage, telling Howie that if it wasn't a low number, she was going to hit the floor anyway. Haley opened the case. $500,000. The last big amount on the board, gone. The audience erupted in shock. Adalis dropped.
Okay.
The dream was over. Everything the Chancretas, the satellite link, the husband's encouragement, the family cheering it all, led to this moment. The board was empty. Howie was gracious. He praised her guts, her courage, her willingness to go for it. You are a woman. You have a great husband. You have a great family. You have great friends, and you are a great person, he told her. The final offer was $500. She took it. And her case 13, the one she had held from the very beginning with those lucky chancretas on her feet. It had $750 inside. Adalis Marrero walked onto that stage with nothing and left with $750. She was a middle school cheerleading coach from Tennessee who walked onto the Deal or No Deal stage with her entire squad behind her, pom-poms and all. She lost the million in the very first round. She watched the offers climb, then crash, then climb again. And when the final offer came, she did something most contestants never do. She followed a strategy she'd planned before the game even started. Stephanie Lynch is 26 years old, born and raised in White House, Tennessee, and she's the head coach of a middle school cheerleading squad at Merrill High Magnet School. Her squad, the Logicians as they're called, was sitting right there in the audience, ready to cheer their coach through the biggest game of her life. And Howie, never one to miss a moment, pointed out the obvious. A cheerleading coach with her own built-in cheering section. The energy in that studio was electric from the very first second. But here's what made Stephanie different from most contestants. She came in with a strategy. Not just a lucky number or a gut feeling, an actual thought-out strategy. She'd said before the game even started that if the banker ever made her an offer where only one remaining case on the board was worth more than the offer itself, she would take the deal. That was her rule. That was her line in the sand. And tonight we were going to find out if she had the discipline to follow it when the pressure was real and the money was on the table. Stephanie picked case number 7, her lucky number. Sarah brought it down to the podium, and with the Logicians chanting behind her, the game was on. Stephanie opened 6 cases, and this first round was rough. Really rough. The kind of opening that makes you wonder if the dark cloud from the last episode followed someone new to the stage. Among the first 6 cases, the damage was severe and relentless. $25,000 came off the board early, not the worst loss, but a sign of things to come. Then, $100,000 disappeared. The right side of the board was taking hit after hit, and then came the moment that would define the entire trajectory of Stephanie's game. $1 million. The top prize, gone. Eliminated in the very first round, before the banker had even made his first phone call. The crowd gasped. The cheerleaders who had been bouncing and chanting since the moment the game started went completely silent for the first time all night. Stephanie's face dropped. Losing the million before the game has even really gotten started is one of the most demoralizing things that can happen on Deal or No Deal. The ceiling of the game had just been cut in half. The banker made his first call. $9,000. For a middle school cheerleading coach from White House, Tennessee, $9,000 is real money, but it's not the kind of money you quit a game show for. Not when $750,000 is still sitting on the board. Stephanie didn't even flinch. "It's way too early in this game," she said firmly. Absolutely no deal.
No deal.
5 more cases to open. Stephanie navigated through the round with a mixture of relief and tension. Some mid-range amounts came off the board, but the key numbers survived. $750,000 was still there, still glowing on the right side of the board like a beacon of hope. Other significant amounts remained in play too. $500,000, $400,000, and more. The board wasn't pretty after the devastation of round 1, but there was still enough firepower up there to make this worth every second of anxiety. The banker's second offer, $21,000. More than double the first offer, which showed that the banker respected the fact that $750,000 was still alive. But $21,000 was still nowhere near the potential sitting on that board. Stephanie gathered with her supporters, her squad was chanting behind her, her family was leaning in, and the message was clear. There's a lot more money than $21,000 up on that board, and we're gonna go for it. The cheerleaders went wild. The pom-poms were flying. Stephanie's face hardened with determination. No deal. They were going to keep pushing forward, protecting the $750, letting the offers climb until her strategy told her it was time to stop. 4 cases to open. And this is where the game started getting really precarious. Case after case, the mid-range and upper mid amounts were falling like dominoes. $50,000 gone, $75,000 gone. And then came the biggest hit of the round. $500,000 wiped off the board. The crowd deflated. That was the second biggest amount left in the game, and it was gone. But the $750,000 was still alive. It was the last truly massive number on the board, and everything depended on it staying there. $400,000 was also hanging on, giving Stephanie 2 big targets to hope for. But the board was getting thinner with every round, and the margin for error was shrinking rapidly. The banker offered $74,000. It was a significant jump, the biggest offer yet. Stephanie gathered her supporters and talked it through. $74,000 was more than 2 years of her salary as a cheerleading coach. Real, tangible, life-changing money. But her strategy said, keep going. The $750,000 was still in play, and her rule hadn't been triggered yet. She still had multiple cases above the offer on the board. No deal. Would you have taken $74,000 right there? 2 years of income, guaranteed, versus the chance at $750? Think about it before you judge Stephanie's decision. 3 cases to open, and the very first one landed like a gut punch. $750,000. The number Stephanie had been protecting all game long. The biggest prize on the board, the anchor of her entire strategy, gone, eliminated. The cheerleaders went quiet. Stephanie's face showed the pain of watching your biggest hope disappear in a single case opening. But here's where Stephanie's composure shone through. She didn't panic. She didn't break down. She looked at the board and saw that $400,000 was still in play. It wasn't $750, but $400,000 was still a life-changing amount. The remaining cases in the round opened without taking the $400,000, which was a massive relief. The biggest number was gone, but the second biggest was still there, still fighting for Stephanie's future. The offers bounced around. The banker was recalculating after the loss of the $750, trying to figure out the right number to tempt Stephanie off the stage. The board continued to narrow through subsequent rounds, with smaller amounts falling away while the $400,000 held firm. Stephanie kept saying no deal round after round, chasing that $400,000 with the same determination she'd used to chase the $750. The board narrowed down to 5 cases. $400,000 was still alive, the only truly big number remaining. $5,000 came off the board in one of the opens. And then the banker called with what would become the most important offer of the entire game, $69,000. Howie told Stephanie she had one case to open before the next round. He asked her to look at the board carefully. And here was the key moment, the math that would trigger Stephanie's pre-game strategy. Only one amount on the board was higher than $69,000, the $400,000. Every other remaining amount, every single one, was less than what the banker was offering right now. If she said no deal, she had a 4 out of 5 chance of opening something smaller, which would drive the next offer up. But she also had a 1 out of 5 chance of hitting the $400,000, which would crater everything. And, more importantly, her rule had been triggered. Remember what she'd said before the game even began? Her pre-planned strategy. If the banker makes an offer where only one remaining case is worth more than the offer, take the deal. That was the rule she'd set for herself when the pressure was low, when the adrenaline wasn't flowing, when she could think clearly without $69,000 staring her in the face. She'd made that promise to herself before she ever stepped foot on this stage. And now, the moment of truth had arrived. Howie asked the question. Stephanie's boyfriend looked at her with steady eyes and said the most powerful words of the entire episode. You've always said that if you're in this situation, you'd take the deal. Now you're in that exact situation. Do what you said you'd do. No screaming, no begging, no tears. Just a quiet, firm reminder to follow her own plan. The kind of support that doesn't try to control the decision, it just points you back to who you said you'd be. Stephanie took a deep breath. She looked at the board one last time. She looked at her cheerleaders, who were gripping their pom-poms so tight their knuckles were white. And then she pressed the button. Deal. $69,000. The cheerleading coach from White House, Tennessee, had followed her strategy all the way to the end. Howie asked Stephanie what her next case choice would have been if she'd said no deal. She said case 22. They opened it, the amount inside confirmed what the math had suggested. It was not the $400,000. She would have survived that round. Then Howie opened case 7, Stephanie's lucky number. The case she'd chosen at the very beginning of the night. $750. Just $750. Let that number sink in for a moment. The cheerleading coach, who earns less than $35,000 a year, who spends her days teaching teenagers how to do backflips and build pyramids, had just sold a $750 case for $69,000.